That is right. It is orange and blue today. Oh my God. After a day like yesterday, oh man, how do you look at the Denver Broncos now? It is Cecil Lammey here. Hope to be joined by Andrew Mason in just a little bit. But after yesterday's game, it's just pathetic. I mean, this Broncos team is worse than what they were with Vic Fangio. And I never thought I would say that. I'm really beside myself today, and I'm trying to maintain somewhat of positivity. But there's really not much to be had when you look at the way this team did not perform against a bad Indianapolis Colts team without their best player. It was really just pathetic, embarrassing, shameful, whatever you want to say. That's what it was. And there's honestly not any way you can really like spin this or be positive about it, or it's fine and it'll work it out. Like, no, this is pretty bad. This is pretty bad, and things have been bad for this team. So however you try to spin it or say like it's fine, like it's not fine. It's not fine at all. This team is in a bad spot, and who knows how they can get things on track, especially with the rest of the regular season and especially with that schedule coming up after the season. He is Andrew Mason. He joins me now from the Fan Studios. Mace, I'm trying to be in a good mood today, brother. I'm trying, but it's really, really hard.
Well, I mean, I just had a pretty wild conversation with D-Mac and Derek Wolf over there on the drive, and so that's why I'm a little late getting over here. I apologize.
Yeah, tell D-Mac you got a show, buddy. D can wait. He can wait on that stuff.
We pushed the break as long as we could, but I mean, look, we're not. It's a gray day, and we're not here to blow sunshine up anyone's butt. Okay, hey. I got to ask you this. I mean, I thought maybe I was a little bit optimistic when I said 11-6 before the season, and now I'm starting to dial that back. How are you doing? I mean, you were saying Super Bowl expectations, man. How are you holding up?
Yeah, terrible. Terrible. I mean, I'm going to try to get through this show without cussing. And I've said it, I think I said it after the Raiders game. I don't know. There's been so many embarrassments. I was like, I'm embarrassed to have ever said 12 wins. I'm embarrassed to have ever said, and listen, if they're a playoff team, because people tried to have that cop out, I don't want to defend myself. Obviously, awful take because the Broncos are awful. But when people are like, they're a playoff team, but not a Super Bowl team. If you're a playoff team, you're a Super Bowl contender. Like, that's just the way it is. So again, I'm not going to talk 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other. But like, this is embarrassing. They won't win 7 games.
Yeah.
Mace, I don't know how this gets better.
Yeah. And the thing is, I've actually got my post-game numbers piece coming, denverfan.com, a little later on this afternoon, kind of pending, because I've got some moving parts. I got to get to the airport. I'm heading out to the Midwest to go hang with the family for a weekend. But
yeah, you need that decompress, baby.
Yeah, I probably won't watch a lot of football after last night's game. I might be canceling my plan to go watch Wisconsin Northwestern on Saturday over at Ryan Field. I don't know if I can watch another bad football game, and that's probably going to be a bad football game.
Yeah.
So I might just need a break. But Cecil, the number I'm going to put in there is numbers, I should say. It's based on the fact that this offense has fewer than 80 points and has 6 or fewer touchdowns. And I kid you not, when teams have had that in the first 5 games of the season over the last 15 years, every last one of them has ended up with double-digit losses. And that's where the Broncos are right now. That's the company they're keeping. And they're keeping company with a lot of teams that had, bridge quarterbacks, bad quarterbacks. You got Russell Wilson and you're doing this.
Right.
I mean, and Russ is probably not 100%. I mean, clearly with the shoulder, I think he's affected, but it was messy even before he got hurt.
Yeah, it was ugly before he got hurt. And that's what I'm telling some Broncos fans is like, because I'm getting asked about, was he woozy and concussion? And I know everyone's kind of dialed in with that, with the Nyheim Hines. Sounds like he's going to be okay. The Tua Tagovailoa, like people are more noticing that, the glazed over eyes at the post-game press conference, the Broncos country, let's ride, or whatever. Like, okay, that's part of the conversation, Mace. But
That was
what I'm
so
telling
sad.
Broncos fans is like, he's not himself. Like, Russ isn't washed. And that's what's disgusting about this whole thing, because that's the narrative that's being painted. You guys got Russell Wilson and he's washed up. No, he's not. He's not healthy.
Yeah. I mean, you remember after the beating Aaron Rodgers took here in Denver
Yeah.
back in 2015, and for about 2 months, people said the Broncos broke Aaron Rodgers. He's done. And look, based on the history of top tier quarterbacks, it's probably more likely this is a dip than the start of a decline. And again, this is just kind of looking at other comparable quarterbacks over the years. But it's like, what's causing that dip? Is his health? Is he hurt at this moment? Yes. But what else is involved? Is it the scheme? Is it trying to marriage this shotgun marriage of of concepts that he worked with in Seattle versus with Hackett concepts, coming up with this Frankenstein's monster scheme that that guys talked about how much they had to study in the off season, which is why I asked Nathaniel Hackett today about the kind of simplify things a little bit, try to find some core competencies here, because it seems like you're throwing too much at these guys. And oh, by the way, new quarterback coming in, getting used to new receivers. We have shakeup on the offensive line. I mean, and now you got injuries. They may have to dial this thing down to its most basic, essential elements, not be fancy. And this is going to make everyone have the dry heaves, probably. Try to win games 2017.
Yeah, and that's different than what we thought. Mace, I almost feel like we should have known, with this complicated system, like we should have known. We can all be optimistic. We can all be happy Russ was here. Hackett was a breath of fresh air after Fangio. But if he truly wants to do this and they're going to stick to that, which is their decision, man, this is going to take a year and a half, something like that.
We knew it was going to take some time. I mean, I think you and I talked about this every day at training camp, that this offense, it's not going to be a finished product. But here's the thing. When we talked about it being a work in progress, I think we assumed it would be average in terms of its production. These guys are down to the bottom of the barrel. They're worse in terms of production than they were under Pencil Pack Shermer, worse than under Rich Gangarello, worse than under Billy Muss back half of 2017, 2018. I mean, these guys are flirting with, in terms of scoring offense, being the worst in the league. In terms of red zone offense, they are the worst in the league. Russ's passer rating in the red zone is like 50.3 right now. I mean, this is a disaster right now. This is an absolute disaster. And that's the kindest thing I can say about it. They've had 5 games, and in 4 of them, they haven't even gotten to 17 points. So maybe getting to 20 to 17 is a stretch, especially now that you're without Garrett Bowles and you're without Javonte Williams and you're already without Tim Patrick, and your tight end position is just is like, okay, who's up right now?
Yeah. And listen, part of that is just they don't have the horses. When Eric Tomlinson drops that pass, I'm just like, that's not him.
Yeah.
Eric Tomlinson's not going to make that play. I'm not mad at Eric Tomlinson. Eric Tomlinson's great blocking, but like the fit here, and I've always said the dirty secret in the NFL is fit, and this fit for this group of talented players is not working.
Yeah, and look, and if this continues, and we're talking about the offense having these historically bad numbers, it did hit me last night, and I've I'm usually one who likes to kind of sit and wait for a while, let the sample size build, and then kind of make an assessment. It did hit me last night at walking back up from the field after I did my on-camera hit, that we really may be looking at a one and done head coach if this thing doesn't turn around.
Yeah, and there's something even Daniel here on Facebook chat says, like, I think Hackett gets fired if they lose to the Chargers. Like, I'm not sure about that.
Oh, Dan the man, yes.
But
I'm not. That's his take, though. I mean,
okay,
Dan the man. If Dan the man were in charge, Bud Black would have been fired years ago. Oh
It's just ahead of
God.
the curve, right? It's just ahead of the curve. But
Hey,
I don't think it's an in-season firing, but I don't
I don't think so
if you
either.
sweep the Chiefs, maybe. I was driving today and I was like, oh, I mean, how does he save his job? Like, sweep the Chiefs, maybe. But now I'm
Playoff.
talking like wild-eyed pod, and I'm the guy that said 12 wins. I'm the guy that said Super Bowl expectation. So I'm just going to shut the hell up and watch this garbage team try to make something out of this season.
I mean, if for you're talking about this team doing far more than it has, and look, they can get, the offense can become more efficient, but I don't think you're going to snap your fingers and all of a sudden have a great offense. I think those dreams of an offense that became terrific are probably by the wayside. You're trying to get them to somewhere in that mid tier. Like I said, right now they're bad. This is a bad offense, and any way you slice it, whether you're talking about the eye test on film, you're talking about the data, it all reveals the same thing. Like this is not a case where the eyes lie or the numbers deceive. No, they're all in accord right now in terms of what this offense is. I mean, this defense potentially is good enough to where, if you can, hold teams off, if you can figure out a way to not make mistakes, if you can maybe if you just kind of rethink what you're trying to do. Okay. This team, when it had third and 4 from the 15 and a 3-point lead, you should not have been thinking about a touchdown. The only thing you're thinking about is two things. You're thinking about protect the ball, don't have a turnover here. If you're trying to get the first down, you're doing it in the way that at least runs some clock. But you're not thinking about touchdown. Because here's the thing. Nathaniel Hackett said, "Oh, well, you get a touchdown ends the game. A first down ends the game too. And you only need to get 4 yards for that, not 15." That's the thing that boggles my mind. Like, what in the world is the thought process? And then you get to overtime. It's actually good, by the way. It's actually good play design on the 4th and 1 play. Because KJ Hamler's wide open. That's on Russ. But at the same time, the thought of that play saying, okay, we got to get a touchdown right now. No, you had 4th and 1. Get the yard. And then you give yourself more shots. And if you're trying to get that yard and you end up getting the touchdown, that's great. That's wonderful. But you're trying to give yourself more chances. If they were really playing the analytics here, that's what they'd be thinking about.
Yeah, fresh set of downs, right? And I think this is where the Melvin Gordon fumbling problems comes into play because they just don't trust him.
Yeah.
Watch what they do, not what they say. Yeah, you have Mike Boone. You don't yet have Latavius Murray. Hell, I like Devine Zigbo. But like on the 4th and 1 and other plays you mentioned, 3rd and 4, like if they had a running back they would trust, we might have seen something different. Yeah. I would hope.
The thing is, like, literally the one thing Melvin Gordon that actually on his resume is still there is his ability to get that 1 yard when you need the 1 yard come from under center. I mean, you go. Or the other thing you could have done, but this may be a Russell Wilson health thing. I mean, you go 13 personnel. You have Andrew Beck in the backfield. You just go heavy jumbo, as Joe Gibbs used to call it back in the day, and you do a play and you do play fake boot action. And I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I feel like some of this actually functioned better under Pat Shurmur than it has under Nathaniel Hackett.
You ain't lying. You're not lying at all. And I feel bad for the defense because, like, do they have to do everything? I guess they do, because there was the Matt Ryan fumble, well, one of them, and like he clearly wasn't down, and he fumbled it, and it ended up the Colts it kind of just blew it dead, but a Colts lineman kind of picked it up or whatever. But if the Broncos defense, it would have been Chubb, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, if you scoop and score on that, I mean, I guess you do have to do everything. And there was a couple instances, the first Stearns interception, like if you just could have found a way to get that in the end zone, because the defense is going to have to do everything with as inept as this offense is. And I feel bad for those guys when, they lose and people are like, you couldn't stop the Colts. I'm like, they're tired. They're worn out. This team doesn't run the ball. Hackett talked about it today. Like, run game and defense are hand in hand. You run the ball, you give your defense rest. The defense is awesome,
Mm-hmm.
but they have to do everything. And when they don't do those things, like pick up a fumble that you thought he was down, now you don't win the game because your defense didn't do absolutely everything.
It's the sort of thing I got Tony Dungy fired in Tampa because, I mean, there's nothing new under the sun. I saw this 20 some odd years ago when you had a terrible offense and a defense that literally had 3 Hall of Famers, maybe 4 when Rondé Barber gets in. But even that star-studded all-time defense wore down at some point. Let's talk. We could go talk about the no-fly zone in 2016. Eventually, even a great defense buckles. Right, it buckled against the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football, and that coming out of the bye. I mean, that is the thing about great offense versus great defense, and that is even the greatest of defenses. If you keep putting them out there and the fatigue accumulates, they're going to buckle. I mean, in overtime, I mean, those guys were breathing heavy. That is why I will say, like, going for it on 4th and 1 rather than kicking the field goal, I completely get that. That specific call was the right call because that was reading the fact that the Broncos defense at that point, as terrific as it had been all night, was gassed.
Yeah, they were completely gassed at that time. Orange and blue today, Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason. And this game, the fans leaving when it went to overtime. I'm never going to tell a fan how to fan, Mace, but this was a low point. I just put it up on the screen. Jeremy had it. Mm-hmm. Like, it feels like this is a low point.
Because there were expectations.
Mm.
When, you saw dodgeball, right?
Oh, of course.
And Peter LaFleur, Vince Vaughn gives the little soliloquy about not having goals. Mm-hmm. That if you don't have goals, you're not disappointed. And he's like, I got to tell you, it feels phenomenal. Okay. There weren't high goals in Broncos country in the last few years. And so when you don't have high goals, the losses don't hurt that much, right? And they did. And don't get me wrong, they did because people did buy in. I mean, you remember the reaction on oh my gosh. Wow. I'm sorry.
Let's just do the whole show with this above our faces, right? Like,
wow.
Orange and blue today, I guess we're firing Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah. But yeah, like this is a different kind of anger than the anger after losing to Philadelphia last year and Teddy Bridgewater not kind of putting his body in there to try to make a play on the fumble return, right?
Right.
This is different because this comes with the belief that something good would happen. And I mean, I know you had the higher expectations than I did. I was the one who was like, okay, if we're talking Super Bowl, we got to wait a year, but I didn't expect an offense that'd be 31st in the league after 5 games. I mean, I expected an offense about 15th to 20th right now, to be honest with you.
I think Hackett and Melvin Gordon are kind of sharing some things. Diamond says it here. Yeah. Like, he looks scared. I in observing Nathaniel Hackett, like, he seems like he's in his own head. In every decision, he's questioning, and then who's is okay? Do I get the thumbs up? Like, dude, and that just compounds itself.
And the thing is, like, he is honest to a fault with us in media, and I admire that.
It's refreshing.
Yes, but I'm not sure you should admit that you second guess every call that you make. I admire. I get where he's coming from, and I think every coach, every play caller looks back and says, oh, I wish I'd had that back. I wish I'd had that back. But man, that is not something that I think you put out there for public consumption. That was, we had in our group text. I'm like, do you think Mike Shanahan would have said something like that when he was head coach? They second guesses every call.
No.
And he look, I want to make it clear. He's coming at it from the right spot because he talked about how he wanted to have the right call for his players. He wants to do right by his guys. But I think maybe what's also happening is because of that, he's kind of pressing a little bit, and he's got to, find a way to follow despite all the noise, follow the advice of his beloved quarterback of the last 3 years before this season, Aaron Rodgers, he's got an RELAX. I don't know how he does it, but he's got to relax in terms of how he's kind of calling a game. And you know what? When you miss a call, don't worry about it, right? Okay, it's gone. You can't stew about it. You got to move, turn the page, move on to it. You got to have a great corner's memory. What do the great corners all have? They forget. They get beat. They forget about it. They move on. Turn the page. I think the thing
short-term memory.
Yep, sure.
And hey, Matt, don't worry about my sunglasses, buddy. You'll be all right. On this day, like, this is not the day for that. Like, who gives a damn? Seriously, like, this team is so bad, and there's so many things to look at and try to wonder how they're going to fix. But baby steps, simplify things, and, win with defense, win ugly. And, this is where you're at. But you are truly in desperation mode, and you got the Chargers coming up in 11 days? Like, oh my God, 10 days, whatever the number is. Like, oh, that's bad.
Yeah. And they're going to have Keenan Allen back, it looks like, too. So, this is, I'm going to make a Tampa reference, and I probably shouldn't, but I will anyway. But here's the thing. Warren Sapp used to say, if you give us 17, we'll win. Scoring is down around the league this year, right? Broncos are down more than most, but scoring is down. And I feel like whether it's 17 or 20, one of those two numbers, that what we're seeing from this defense is so exquisite. And I think even without Josie Jewell for a little while and without Ronald Darby, I think they can continue making progress. I think Damari Mathis has shown some flashes when he's been in there. He's not Ronald Darby, but I think he's going to get better with experience. But the general thinking should be, if you get to 17 or 20, then you play a game that is a little bit more grind them out, a little bit more deliberative pace. That should be good enough for the defense to do what it needs to do and be able to get you out there with a dub more often than not. I think the great expectations for this team are probably on the shelf, but how do you maximize what it is right now? Because I think we can argue that this defense is the best defense we've seen since 2016 around here.
Right. I'm not sure I'll agree with Mr. Neal here. Win in LA, win against the Chargers, and everything changes. Obviously, it's a step in the right direction, but it's been so bad. So bad. We're looking for anything. We really are. And we're going to talk all about the Garrett Bowles injury, the Ronald Darby injury. All that's coming up on Orange and Blue today, every day, Monday through Friday at 3:30 p.m. Mace, we got to get to the weekend. I got to get my daughter to work. You've got to go spend time with your family. Everyone, and I urge you, because what's the only thing, I think DU hockey, right? Is about the only thing going on in Denver sports. So, enjoy your DU hockey. Champions, to be sure. Yeah. But if you want to go to Breckenridge and see the leaves change, or go up to Aspen, or just go out in nature, I got water to the canyons in my backyard. Like, go. It's time to decompress, take a deep breath, and try not to let this team affect your mood too much. Mace, travel safe, my friend.
Thanks. You have a great weekend. I'll see you Monday.
All right. He's Andrew Mason. I'm Cecil Lammey. This is Orange and Blue today. Stay tuned and stay frosty.